Okay, our next speaker comes to us from San Jose, California. He's a chiropractor and a clinical nutritionist. He's author and lecturer in the area of immunology, and that's about the immune system, basically your body's natural immune system. His book called The Sanctity of Human Blood is now in its ninth printing, folks. That's how popular his books are. Okay, and he takes an uncompromising look at the alarming number of vaccines that were now given today to our children, as well as the science, the money, and the program misconceptions that most Americans have about vaccines and the politics of vaccines. Please help me give a warm hand of welcome to Dr. Tim O Shea.
Well, as long as we're clapping and want to acknowledge somebody, let's acknowledge Payman. Can we do that? What do you think of him? Please turn off all beepers, cell phones, pagers, and implements of mass destruction, if you would, please. Can you guys hear me in the back okay? Good. I'm Dr. Tim O Shea. I am going to be giving you a few excerpts from my 2 full-day seminars that I do. For the past 6 years, I've been giving a full-day seminar on vaccines, immunizations throughout the country and in other countries as well. This is my website. Whenever during this talk I say the website, I'm talking about thedoctorwithin.com. It's a very extensive website on, here it is, on holistic nutrition and immunizations and things of that nature. The Doctor Within. Hey, this thing works. Cool. The book, The Sanctity of Human Blood, Vaccination is Not Immunization, is now, yes, it's the 9th edition of this book. And I wish I wouldn't have written this book. I wish I would have had a life instead. It cost me 2 girlfriends and 2 horses. But as I began to look at this subject, and the first book that I ever read was a book by Wallene James way back in 1995 called Immunizations, the Reality Behind the Myth. And here I am, a doctor, all this education, 10 years university, and I never was forced to take a look at the issues behind vaccinations. And it's so similar to what Payman is talking about here and what all these other speakers are talking about here. We blindly accept, our conditioning over the years, and we just mold our behavior based on the conditioning that we are given. Now, let's see if I can figure this out. Yeah. So in my full-day seminar on vaccines, I spend the first 45 minutes talking about paradigm shift. Here I'm suggesting to people that they consider another point of view about vaccines. What are we taught to think our entire life? Vaccines are safe and vaccines are effective, right? Doctors have tested them, right? There's science behind vaccines that shows the safety and effectiveness of vaccines. Okay, well, that's what everybody thinks. So here I am suggesting to people, well, what if you actually looked at this subject beyond rhetoric and looked at the science and looked at the economics and looked at the forces behind the picture in this topic, would you still hold that opinion that vaccines are safe and vaccines are effective? So after the first couple of years of doing the full day seminar, I started realizing, God, if I just start dumping the info on people, I'm like, fact source, fact source, fact source. That's how my lectures go. That's how my presentations go. It's like people are backing off right away going, well, what's this dude talking about? Because they're not understanding that I'm suggesting or I'm asking them to step outside the cage, as we say. So I wrote this chapter on the website, which I exhort everyone to look over. It's about 30 pages. It's entitled "The Doors of Perception: Why Americans Will Believe Almost Anything." And it was very popular. It still is. But I mean, today, this thing's got to go. Can somebody get this out of here? Just kidding. Today, I mean, already we've heard speakers already talk about, the first speaker talked about, dumbing down of Americans. And then Dave talked about, what did he talk about? The sheeple and all this. And of course, they're right. But, we cannot think that this phenomenon is happening generally because of apathy or because of entropy. No, this dumbing down of our level of intelligence is by design. It is a science. It has been going on since the early 1900s. And that's what the research that I summarize in this chapter, The Doors of Perception. The nephew of Sigmund Freud was Edward L. Bernays, and he founded the science, really, of sort of the creation of mass perceptions. And I go through that whole history. And you read this chapter, and at the end of the chapter, it hopefully gives you a new way to start watching TV or to start reading your newspapers. And you begin to realize why we think the way all of us sort of do. They don't call them programs for nothing. So at the end of that chapter, I asked this question. This is the final question. The result of reading this 30-page chapter, I ask you this question. All right. What would your life be like? What would you lose from your life? Academically, spiritually, morally, intellectually, or financially, if you, starting tonight, stopped watching all TV, because when you go home tonight, you're going to walk over to your TV, unplug it, pick it up, walk upstairs, open your window, throw your TV out your window, close the window, and never bring another one into your house, and you're going to stop reading all newspapers and glossy magazines. How would your life suffer in all 5 of those areas? That's a serious question. I'm not going to talk about this. Okay, so today, all we have time for, I'm just going to do a few excerpts from these 2 full-day seminars. You're supposed to say, what 2 full-day seminars? I don't even know what I'm saying. Okay, I have 1 full-day seminar on vaccines. I've been doing it for 6 years. And then 3 years ago, another seminar evolved out of that information, which I'll tell you about in a few minutes. Now, in the vaccine seminar, one of the topics that we begin with, so that people will get a kind of a frame about what we're talking about, is the economics behind vaccines. And here's some of the introductory information in that regard. In 1994, we here in the US spent about $3 billion per year on vaccines. By the year 2002, that figure had climbed to $6.5 billion a year. By last year, it had climbed to $8 billion a year. And it is on target to be up to $15 billion by the year 2020. We're right on schedule. this amazing chapter sort of explains it. You understand this slide and the next slide. This is an incredible article that appeared in the peer-reviewed journal, American Journal of Public Health, in December of 2002. Okay, so here's how it goes. In 1975, we spent $10 per kid for vaccines. Got it? By 2001, that figure had climbed to $385 per child. God bless you. Now, their estimate at that time was that by the year 2020, following a recommendation of only 7 additionals, that figure is estimated to jump to $12.25 per child by the year 2020. So on this next slide here, I put it all in perspective. Amount per child that we have spent over the years: 1975, $10, 2001, $385, 2004, $606, 2020 projection, $12.25, and we're right on target. Any questions? Okay, this is another amazing money slide. This is from the World Health Organization's own website. Every 5 years, they update this site. So this is actually the most recent figures. Okay, in 2003, the human race was administering 43 million injections per day worldwide, for a total of 16 billion injections into the collective human circulatory system every year. 16 billion. The bad news is their previous figure was from 1999, when it was 12 billion. You see it? It's going in the wrong direction. The next topic that I cover in the vaccine seminar is the history of vaccines. And we begin with the work of Edward Jenner. And when I was in England, I visited the Jenner Museum in Gloucestershire, which I definitely recommend people do. It's a very historical place. But the reason I start with Jenner is that the first vaccine, of course, was a smallpox vaccine. So in the seminar, I traced the history of smallpox vaccine from its inception in 1797 with Edward Jenner, and then all the way up to, well, we started doing smallpox vaccine here in the U.S. It was our first vaccine in 1902. We stopped doing that in 1971, and then post 9/11, we trotted it out again. And so I bring all this data together in one continuum. Part 2 of the history of vaccines, we go back to the mid-1860s with the work of Louis Pasteur and the germ theory of disease. And all of this is summarized in the book, The Sanctity of Human Blood, and in the seminar. Now, what happened was, okay, Homeland Security Act, this incredible document, 1,500, more than, how many pages? Was it more than 1,500, anybody know? It was at least 1,500 pages, but this document appeared a very short time after, exactly, and there was no way that it could have been written in such a short time, for those of you who have done the history on that. But the Homeland Security Act was introduced into Congress in the morning and passed by both houses by the afternoon with no discussion. I don't even want to talk about that, but it has significance in the vaccine world in that there were 2 riders tacked onto that Homeland Security Act that totally suspended all current lawsuits for children who had vaccine damage. It pulled the rug out from under all of those lawsuits in one fell swoop. Of course, that rider was discovered and was reinstated the following month. And in the seminar, I go through the history of smallpox vaccine, especially post 9/11, and this is a summary of it briefly here. Finally, this smallpox vaccine was only, after post 9/11, we spent $3 billion producing, enough vaccine for all of us, because of this bioterrorist threat that was, swimming over on camel across the Atlantic at any time. Turned out ultimately only 10% of the population the vaccine was indicated for. The rest of the population would have been exempt from that vaccine. Second thing is, the smallpox vaccine was never for smallpox. It was for cowpox. For the last 200 years, it was always for cowpox. This is a completely different disease, not a disease of humans. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm not going to go into the proof of that, but it's abundantly clear in the book and in the seminar. The next thing is that this vaccine, the smallpox vaccine, has killed more people than any other vaccine ever invented. Why did we stop using it in 1971? Number one, it didn't work. Number two, people were really dying and getting huge side effects from it. And then here it is, we tried it out again, post 9/11 because of this supposed bioterrorist threat. And then finally, after, the money gets spent, finally, in October of 2003, the CDC, God bless you, changes their mind and decides to end the smallpox vaccination program. Now, do you guys sort of remember for that year and a half post 9/11? This is true terrorism. We were being terrorized every week or so by these stupid articles that would appear in the newspapers and in the press about the mass smallpox vaccine program that was coming out in order to protect us from the bioterrorist threat. Do you remember that? And then suddenly it ended. Okay, well, it ended after the money got spent. So here's what I say. I call this the case of the disappearing threat. Does anybody ever notice this? So we abandoned the vaccine program. Why? Because the vaccine was proven unreliable. So my question is, well, then what happened to the bioterrorist threat? I mean, what an accommodating epidemic which decides to back off because we can't invent a vaccine that will work for it. No. Turn those lights back off, please. Mr. Lightman, tell him. That's bad. Yeah, better. Okay. So we go back to second part of the history section is Louis Pasteur, the germ theory of disease. And I'm not really going to go through this now. It's just that all of us are trained to think from day one that germs cause diseases, that bugs cause diseases. And we go through the scientific objections to that sort of construct that has been ramjetted into all our consciousness and ask questions about that. And we learned that there is so much legitimate, really legitimate science from the time of Louis Pasteur to indicate that germs do not cause disease. Germs are an effect of disease. The disease is something that we create by our self-toxifying, self-destructive lifestyle. We provide this hospitable environment in our systems, in our blood, to allow opportunistic infestations by, various microorganisms, but it's not the bug that caused the disease. It's us who did it. No, it's we who did it. So here is, okay. Oh, you got that. Thank you. Antoine Béchamp was a contemporary of Louis Pasteur. I mean, this dude had it right on. He was one of the first guys who was investigating bacteria in the first place. And so, in our unquestioning sort of robotic sojourn through life, we just sort of assume that it's okay to inject foreign microorganisms, bacteria and viruses, pathogenic bacteria and viruses, into the formative circulatory system of our infants. We just assume that's okay because our parents did it. We've always done it. It must be okay. But when you really start studying the science and you discover, wait a minute, there were tons of legitimate scientists in the past 150 years to whom an idea like this was horrendous. And the first of these was Antoine Béchamp, University of Lille. He said, quote, bacteria do not cause disease, and therefore serums and vaccines can neither prevent nor cure disease. He also said that it is horrific to think that we can prevent any disease by injecting living organisms into the inviolate environment of the human bloodstream. So this is not my idea. This is an old idea. It's a natural idea. So he sees bugs or pathogens as scavengers, not predators. And I'm not doing this. I will do this. Howard Hankey, MD, this is a quote from him. The germ theory of disease, quote, indoctrinates the public in the Western world with the belief that the salvation from all physical ailments lay outside the individual system and responsibility. Outside the individual system and responsibility. Hey, that's great. You mean my pancreatitis? You mean my colitis? You mean my cancer? You mean my bronchitis? All my heart disease? It's not my fault. It's genetic. It's a bug. Oh, that's great. It's not my fault. And this is the exact mindset that supports what? The pharmaceutical industry. If it's not your fault, well, it must be some extraneous bug that, infested you somehow. Don't worry, we got the pill for it. We'll kill the bug and you'll be fine. That's sort of the paradigm that we are indoctrinated to believe. Here's a quote from Alan Cantwell. Pasteur made germs respectable. He was a genius at popularizing microbes as a cause of disease. Pasteur's dogma transformed medicine into a multi-billion-dollar biotech business in search of the perfect pill and the perfect vaccine. In the process, the physicians were blinded. So what I did was, in my book, I really go into detail on what's in vaccines. I'm not interested in what the pediatricians tell parents are in vaccines or what the newspapers tell me is in vaccines. I don't care what any of these uninformed, agenda-ridden sources say. I want to know, what do the manufacturers say? So that's the other weird thing about this book. It's not me. I'm really hard to argue with because in every paragraph there is a footnote, like a number in brackets. Every fact, every statistic, I cite the source for. So, and this is not the New Age view of vaccines. This is not the frickin' chiropractic view of vaccines. My sources are mainstream medicine, mainstream science, mainstream law. That is where the opposition to vaccinations is coming from. So, here's one of the sources. The drug industry's CYA manual is called the Physician's Desk Reference. You can get it in any library, Here's what the manufacturers of vaccines tell us is contained in vaccines. Attenuated microorganisms, that means half-killed bacteria and viruses. Toxoids, byproducts of those pathogens. Ethylene glycol, formaldehyde, aluminum, and mercury. That's what we're injecting into the bloodstreams of infants. So now, for those of you in this room, think back to when you were a kid. What shots did you get? Now I'm thinking, I'm an old dude, so I'm thinking I got probably like 4 or 5 or 6, something like that. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go over the current mandated vaccine schedule. Now, why this is really weird for me is that I feel like an idiot up here. I really do. Because for the first 9 editions of this book, this one came out in September last year. For the first 8 editions of this book, I was freaked out because American children are getting 40 vaccines by the time they're from 0 to age 18, 40, and I'm going, this is horrendous. Up until 3 days ago when I discovered the new figure, now the 9th edition, it was up to 58. There was no media on it, There still hasn't been. 3 days ago, I checked the CDC website to discover this. Now, here it is. This is the most current. This is the most current, and there was no media on this. So if you don't follow this on their website, you don't know how many vaccines American children are being mandated. Should we go through this? How much time do I got? Jesus, okay. Okay, I'm not gonna then. Okay, but here's the changes. Well, American children get 32 vaccines by the time they're 18 months of age. And here's the changes. What they did was, at the 11 to 12 year level, they added the MCV4, and the 2 to 18 years, they changed the Hep A. They added Hep A and took one of the Prevnars off. So in effect, they took one off and added two. So, result, by age 18, the American child is mandated to have 59 vaccines. It's going up, up, and up. This makes American children not only the most vaccinated children in the world, but our kids are the most vaccinated children in the history of the world. No other country does what we do. This ridiculous article came out peer-reviewed, oh, that's even better, in the January 2002 edition of the journal Pediatrics. Do vaccines overwhelm the immune system? Because they're going, okay, post-9/11, bioterrorist vaccines, maybe even the comatose American public will start thinking, wow, Ethel, don't you think our kids are getting a lot of vaccines these days? Well, so we have to calm people down. Don't worry, don't worry. This new study is now going to estimate the number of vaccines to which a child could respond to at any one time. Their conclusion, here it is. This was written by one of the FDA members, Dr. Paul Offit. His conclusion, quote, each infant would have the theoretical capacity to respond to about 10,000 vaccines at any one time, unquote. Now, this is not the script of Saturday Night Live. This is a peer-reviewed medical journal. You know, this is the agenda. So after this article came out, obviously there are now dozens of vaccines in the developmental pipeline. Here is a list of some of them. The most frightening one is the AIDS vaccine, and I go through the money that's going into that vaccine in some detail in the book. Am I doing this? No. Oh, in the full-day seminar, I do about an hour on autism. And autism is this epidemic that came out of nowhere since the late 80s is really when it happened, early 90s. And they don't call it an epidemic, even though one child in 150, that's like a national average. One child in 150 becomes autistic these days. The two most likely causes of autism, according to mainstream researchers, is number one, thimerosal or mercury in vaccines, and number two, MMR vaccine, which contains no mercury. So we go into detail in the discussion of each of these two causes. No. It's interesting to note that, you know, no matter what you hear from your physician, mercury is still being produced and manufactured in the flu shot today. They've stopped manufacturing it in most other vaccines. But I discovered this interesting fact. You know, the mantra of the CDC and FDA all these years, in answer to, you know, opposition, why do we have this third most toxic substance known to man in child's vaccines? You know what their answer was? Their answer is, it's never been proven to be harmful. Well, if that's true, then riddle me this. Why did the FDA decide to pull thimerosal out of dog vaccines in 1992, but they left it in human vaccines? Even to this day, mercury has never been outlawed. It's not outlawed. They just recommended to manufacturers that they withdraw it, and that's what they've done. They've voluntarily withdrawn it. But as of the end of 2004, Hep B, influenza, DPT, and Haemophilus influenzae vaccines were being produced with thimerosal in it, no matter what your pediatrician tells you. So what does this really mean? It means that since mercury in vaccines was never outlawed, these millions of doses of these vaccines are stockpiled forever and will continue to be given to anyone they want for decades to come. I don't have time for this, but this is one of the newest chapters on my website. My website is really a series of monographs, like chapters. And here's one of the most recent ones, Avian Flu, the Pandemic That Will Never Be. And we find that avian flu is following in the exact same footsteps as the smallpox and the SARS program took. First, mass hysteria is created for non-existent diseases, for non-existent disease threats. Funding is provided, right? And then after the money is spent, poof, the threat disappears. It's a pattern. Media condition, pandemic, stats. In the present instance, I'm really doing this quickly, but you can read the chapter on the website. Our saviors are Tamiflu, for which $1 billion has been allocated. And when you realize how completely ridiculous and ineffective that is, it'll be amazing. And then George Bush, in the last year, has allocated $7 billion for the creation of a new avian flu vaccine. And I go further into this. I find who are the figures in government who are heavily invested in both these, allocations. Take a wild guess. Another mantra that Americans have is this: no shots, no school. That's what we think. No shots, no school. Now, in the book, I discuss exemptions, and I provide you a website that tells the exemption laws in all 50 states. In all 50 states, there are 3 types of exemptions. Not all of them have all 3, but all 3 exist in this country: medical, religious, and philosophical. Here in California, we have the easiest one of all, the philosophical exemption. It's a 1-page state form. I have it in my office. You can get it off the State of California website, actually. The parents decide they don't want to vaccinate the kid. They sign the form. The kid is out. No questions asked. There's no opposition. You show them the form, end of intimidation. But nobody knows this. Whoa. After doing the vaccine seminar for 6 years, as I previewed you, people kept asking me 2 questions. The first question was, my God, I didn't know this stuff about vaccines. I loaded up my kid with vaccines. What am I going to do now? How am I going to detox him? Okay, that was the first question they asked. Second question they asked was, yep, I knew that. My parents knew that. Never got vaccinated. Never vaccinated my kid. But I want to know, Doc, how shall I optimize my children's immune system? Those were the 2 questions people asked me. So it turns out, answer to both these questions is the same answer. And that sort of generated the second full-day seminar that I do now, the nutrition seminar. And a lot of this information is available for free on my website. I also do these seminars all over the place, so you can look online. I think I was in San Diego last week. I think I'm going to be in somewhere next week.
Probably right.
Yeah, I'll be there. So, and I also have that seminar available on an audio CD set. In the seminar, it was easy. It was really easy to put that seminar together because I already had the research done. I already had the work done in these chapters that exist on my website, so you can look. We do a whole section on enzymes, enzyme detox, a whole section on allergies, We do an hour on the colon and the importance of colon detox. We do a section on diabetes. Did you know that 5% of the American population at the present time, 5% is type 2 diabetic? Type 2 diabetic means you did it, adult onset. You did it by your lifestyle. I do a whole section on soy products, the manufacture and growing GM soy plants, and the manufacture of partially hydrogenated soybean oil. It's called the magic bean. A whole section on minerals. I talk about whole food vitamins versus synthetic vitamins. And then finally, I have a short chapter entitled The Last Resort. Did I create this last little thingy, The Last Resort? Because, like, people don't come to me first. They come to me right, after they've gone to Stanford and they've gone to Mayo Clinic and they've hacked off everything imaginable, all non-essential parts, and they've drugged them to the gills. Well, just about right before they toss the body out onto the lime pit, they come to O Shea to cure them. And so I go, or people, I have all this information for free on my website. So following the universal dictum, no good deed goes unpunished, I get these emails and phone calls at all hours, all the time from people saying, Doc, what do you got for fill in the blank? And then they'll go on and on to, describe their excreta in, lurid detail. And I'm their new doctor. And so what are they really asking me here? What they're really asking me is, Doc, what magic bullet can you tell me I should take in order to cure myself, something that will not require my participation in any way or me to alter my self-destructive, self-toxifying lifestyle? But I'm not jaded. No, I'm not jaded. So anyway, that's why I wrote this chapter, The Last Resort. And here's a summary of The Last Resort. I go like this. Okay, you're dying. You're dying. You are approaching, you're knocking on Elvis' door. And all the doctors, they're not going to save you because you're getting weaker, you're getting sicker, and you're dying, okay? The only way you're going to reverse this parabola and start improving yourself toward optimum health is if you do it, okay? And you have to do, there's no magic bullet involved, you have to do something that's going to involve at least 8 areas. And then I say, okay, you're dying, you want to change that? I teach on the cellular level. The cells of your body determine your health. Cells make tissues, tissues make organs, organs make systems, systems make your body. So the first thing is hydration, 1 to 2 liters of water today, 1 to 2 liters of water per day. Colon detox, an enzyme program, 3 enzyme capsules 3 times a day for 60 days. Drug check. Hey, if drugs could cure you, you'd already be better. What the hell are you doing in my office? People come into my office for the bioterrain analysis, the live blood cell, and I go, okay, do a 4-hour fast and bring in all your drugs and all your supplements. So some of these people, they come in with a frickin' wheelbarrow full of drugs and supplements and fill up this whole table here, and yet they're sick as a dog. And I'm like, hello, nobody's driving the bus here. So what I do is I have my little magnifying glass. I actually read every single drug, every single supplement, generally throw the drugs out. The supplements, most of them are just worthless, and then we put them on a simple, doable program. Okay, subluxation resolution. That's a chiropractic idea that if you are sick, you can't express complete optimum health is if there is interference in the spine, interference to the nervous system. Vitamins and minerals, most of us are totally vitamin and mineral deficient. You have to turn that around. The New West diet. Now, everybody in the front section, I passed out the New West diet to. Again, I did this in self-defense. They're going, what should we eat? What should we eat? Well, here's the New West diet. Are you ready for it? Stop, eating trash. You say that. Yeah. But you can't say that because then you get the negotiators. But how about decaf and, the negotiators? So you got to freaking spell it out. So that's what I did in the New West Diet. I spelled it out. It's on one side of that. It's on the website too. Thank you. You're welcome. Motion. 4% of the American population gets any exercise whatsoever. 4%. Sunshine. It's located outdoors. Get some. So here's the challenge. I have an audio CD entitled the 60-Day Blood Detox Program. So that's what I give to these people who are dying or the people who have whatever, because we're thinking on the cellular level. Oh, your physician gave you 3 months to live. So what are you going to do? Die on schedule? Most people do. I'm serious, they do. But my contention is, hey, if you have any living cells in your body, they must follow the same principles of human physiology that everyone's cells are subject to. We think on the cellular level. We do 2 things to the cells. We add nutrients to each cell, and we detoxify the cells. We get the waste out on the cellular level. So here's what we do for 60 days. The New West Diet, religiously, no deviations. Category 1, Category 2 only. 3 enzyme capsules 3 times a day for a month. Colon detox program, antioxidants. I don't have time to talk about Patrick Flanagan here. Oral chelation program. All this is on the CD. It's on the website. And 1 to 2 liters of water a day. That's it. It's really simple. It's doable and it's inexpensive. Here's the New West Diet. We're not doing it, but I divided food into 4 categories. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. Or that. Or that. See what you're missing? So you really got to come to the nutrition seminar and come to the vaccine seminar. They're both available on... That's right, audio CD. Very good. See, you want to hear this part on obesity, don't you? But we don't have time, sorry. No. You want to hear this part about coffee too, don't you? No. We don't have time. Here's the enzyme that I use. There's the guy who invented it. Very simple, bioavailable. Babies of 2 years old men of 90 can take this enzyme. It's on the website. Yeah. Wow, we're getting smarter. Here's hope for you all. Just don't use my diet. Now, we all know Keith Richards cannot be killed by human means, right? So we all know people like that. But hey, if you're not like that, if you have some illnesses, you're tired a little bit, well, maybe you're not like Keith Richard. Maybe you really got to do something. Or maybe you're not like him, right? So I want to thank you for listening to me. My booth is over here. Come and talk to me and get my book. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. We always wish we had more time for all of our speakers, including Tim, but unfortunately, there's not enough time to do that. And this is why, folks, this conference is intended not to be the answer all and all the details and full information because there's not enough time, but to get you interested in and woken up to look further and research and verify and use more of the stuff. That's why we have the breaks and doing the lunch breaks and the after program. Talk to these guys, get the material. But I'm going to bring another person right now to speak for a few minutes, and that's one of the most successful freedom attorneys in America. This man has such a long track record of success, which I'll tell you about another time. But for right now, I'm bringing up to tell you about a very important, interesting tax law litigation that's going on, and he's a key lead attorney leading that. One of Joe Bannister's two lawyers that had Joe's acquittal successfully implemented, Mr. Jeffrey Dickstein from Wisconsin. Come on up, Jeff.
Hi, it's good to see you all here. Before I start, there's a couple of people who aren't here I want to pay a special tribute to. Some of the finest Americans I've had the privilege of working with and knowing, dear, deep friends, Leo Masters, Vern Holland, both of whom recently passed away. Truly great Americans. And my paralegal, Rob Aldrich, has an inoperable brain tumor and is no longer with me. So wanted to acknowledge them, and the world's a little sadder place because they're not here. Okay, 1894, Congress passes an income tax. Somebody just like you named Pollock thought that the tax was unconstitutional. That was before we came into this inquisitional arena that we're in. And the Supreme Court agreed with them, said that the income tax is a direct tax, it wasn't apportioned, violated the Constitution, struck the income tax law down. Specifically, in their opinion, they said, Congress, if you don't like this, do something about it. 1909, President Taft calls a special session of Congress. They proposed the 16th Amendment. Article 5 of the Constitution says, how's an amendment passed? 3/4 of the then existing states have to ratify it. They sent the proposed ratification to the various states. There were 48 at the time. There was a law called Section 205. Basically, that law said when the Secretary of State receives certificates of ratification, if it shows that the Constitution has been amended, it becomes a part of the Constitution. So Secretary of State Knox starts receiving these certificates, and he notices there's a couple of problems with them. They don't quote exactly the language of the proposed 16th Amendment. Secretary Knox, being an honorable man, sends it to his solicitor. Solicitor of the United States takes a look at it and says, well, you know, it's kind of strange. There are some deviations, but the states have no real power to change a proposed amendment. All they can do is ratify it or not. And so since they don't have that power, we're going to do that, and that these mistakes are just that. They're minor mistakes. And so they certified the 16th Amendment as ratified. That was in 1913. Then we have the Pollock, or the Bruchaber decision, upholds the 16th Amendment. That's been the state of the law up until today. In 1983 or 84, William Benson travels to the capitals of all of the states, pulls the original documentation for the various ratifications, reviewed it, and wrote a book called The Law That Never Was. The book came out in 85 or 86. 4 defendants immediately go into court, say, hey, the 16th Amendment wasn't ratified. There is no law for me to violate. And in 4 decisions, the Foster decision, Ferguson, Thomas, and Miller, all come out in 1986 to 1988. The court said, look, Benson didn't discover anything new. Secretary of State Knox looked at these various certificates, besides which we have an enrolled bill rule. 16th Amendment's been around for 75 years, and it's a political question. We can't address it. All of those things transpired. All of those defendants went to jail, and that's where it lay. FBS is doing some work with that. Bill Benson's promoting his book. And then came the attacks. Recently started maybe 2 years ago. Injunctions under the abuse of trust law, trying to shut people up, and just a rash of criminal prosecutions. We've lost Irwin Schiff. We've lost Larkin Rose. We've lost many others. Dixon Cannon's in jail for a long time. Al Thompson's in jail for a long time. And lots of injunctions. I think Steve was talking about the FES injunction. Well, they issued or tried to get an injunction against Bill Benson. And one of the allegations of their complaint is that Bill is falsely telling people that the 16th Amendment wasn't ratified. Okay. So You know, as a lawyer, I've learned not to do things that don't work. If you want to go to the store and you get into your car and you drive down the road, and the road has a big hole in it, there's construction and stuff, most people will go find another route. The tax patriot community tries to drive through it. What do you mean I can't do that? As a lawyer, I found that doesn't work. So I went into court, filed with a motion to dismiss. On what grounds? Well, the courts have said they can't address the question. It's a political question. I filed a motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction. In the alternative, I said, look, if there's a conclusive presumption and you're trying to penalize Bill for his speech and charge him money for the abuse of trust, and if the presumption is so conclusive that he can't address it, that violates due process of law. And third of all, if the court decides there is jurisdiction and we're going to address it, well, the Supreme Court said because it's a political question, Congress has to address it. I argued that Congress was an indispensable party, and I moved to dismiss the complaint. Of course, the government came back and said that was frivolous. And the judge decided, well, you know what? Maybe I do have jurisdiction after all. He said, I have jurisdiction to apply previous case law. Okay, great. Thanks, Judge. So I filed a answer. The government filed a motion for summary judgment. The judge said, okay, I've got this motion for summary judgment. What I want to know from you, Mr. Benson, is there any evidence other than what's presented in your book, The Law That Never Was? And we responded to that and said, well, we've got the original documents. Those happen to be sitting in my office now. But there's really no real new evidence. But, you know, it's kind of complicated, and I really don't agree with Mr. Benson on everything. And if you don't mind, let me file a short brief explaining our position with respect to the book and why we don't think the 16th Amendment was ratified. Judge said, okay, go ahead and do that. So he invited us to file a brief. We filed that brief. Then we responded to the government's motion for summary judgment. Now, in summary judgment, that means everybody agrees on the facts. We're just going to apply the law. And so you have to file what's called a 56.1 statement of facts. And what each side says, these are my proposed facts, and then the other side gets an opportunity to either admit those facts or to deny them. And if you want to deny them, then you have to present your evidence as to why there are, in fact, these different facts going on. So I did my 56.1 statement. Point one, I argued Section 205 of the revised statutes and the enrolled bill rule, to the extent it allows a proposed amendment to become a part of the Constitution that wasn't actually ratified by 3/4 of the states, is unconstitutional. Second thing I set forth, I'm just going to speed through this because we won't have a lot of time, is at the time of the ratification process, 42 states submitted certificates of ratification. That's a pretty simple fact to either admit or deny. And then I said the states of Connecticut, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Utah rejected the amendment, which according to the facts they did. And then the next fact is 42 minus 4 is 38. Then I said Oklahoma, Missouri, Washington intentionally attempted to change the proposed amendment. Actually, the legislative documents show that they did in fact tried to amend it, and then they voted in the amendment, their amendment. So I did that as a statement of fact. The next statement of fact is Knox's presumption that no state tried to amend it is false. And then the next one is 38 minus 3 is 35. The government objected to my statement of facts on the grounds that they were irrelevant, immaterial, impertinent, and scandalous. And we can't challenge the validity of the ratification of the 16th Amendment, something specifically rejected by the judge. We then filed a motion to have those facts deemed admitted because the government didn't comply with the law. That's been about 4.5, 5 months ago, and the court hasn't ruled yet. That's the state of the 16th Amendment litigation. Mr. Benson's been to jail twice. They tried to put him in jail a third time. They almost killed him. He came out in a wheelchair, was in that wheelchair for many, many months. Bill is incredibly sick right now. He's in extreme pain, lots of narcotic medication. I don't know that this is life-threatening, but he's certainly incapacitated. Very much like you to keep him in your prayers, please. He really needs it. And, you know, this has been going on for Bill Benson since 1983. Here we are in 2006. So it took him 23 years to actually get his hearing. And things with respect to taxes don't move quickly. There's lots and lots of politics involved. Being right is next to meaningless because we are involved in politics. We found a judge, and even in Joe Bannister's criminal trial, Judge Shub gave us a fair trial. So far, this judge appears to be giving us a fair hearing on this. It's not all the judges, a lot of it's us, how we choose to fight, the battles we pick, and the wars that we wage. So there is hope, and I'm real proud of the fact that Bill's a close personal friend, and I just wish him all the best. Thank you.